Test review for test number 3 and problems 35 and 36. This is word problems. So Carl Mason sold 1/4 gross of data disks on Monday and 1/8 gross on Tuesday and 5/12 on Wednesday. What was the total gross sold? So gross means a dozen, but in this case we're not going to be having to calculate anything times 12. We're just going to add the fractions. So we're basically taking these 3 pieces of data, 1/4 gross, 1/8 gross, because each day he sold a different amount. 1/4 plus 1/8. We have to find a least common multiple or least common denominator between 4, 8, and 12. We can't just add them. So we'll look at the highest number and start listing its multiples. 12 times 1 is 12. Does 8 and 4 go into 12? No. So we go to the next one. 12 times 2 is 24. Does 8 go into 24? Yes. Does 4 go into 24? Yes. And 12 goes into 24. So the least common denominator or least common multiple is 24. So that means 4 times 6 is 24. So we multiply the numerator times 6. 8 times 3 is 24. So we multiply the numerator times 3. 12 times 4, no, 2. 12 times 2 is 24. And so we multiply the numerator times 2. So let's calculate our new fractions. 1 times 6 is 6. 4 times 6 is 24, so 1/4 becomes 6/24 plus 8 times 3 is 24. Let's do our next fraction. I don't know why I'm not drawing well. 1 times 3 is 3, and then plus 12 times 2 is 24 for this last fraction. 5 times 2 is 10. So now we have an equivalent fraction for 1/4, which is 6/24, 1/8, which is 3/24, and 5/12, which is 10/24. Each fraction has a new denominator of 24. So if we add 6 plus 3, which is 9, plus 10 is 19. So our overall answer becomes 19/24 gross. Number 35 is 19/24 gross. Number 36. There were 25 1/8 yards of wire on a spool. After a customer bought 4 1/2 yards of wire from the spool, how many yards were left? Alright, so basically if you could imagine somebody having a spool of wire and you just cut off 4 1/2 yards, then we're just calculating how much would be left behind. So that's subtraction. So then it's 25, because this is the total amount of wire that you cut from. Take that total amount of wire, subtract what you, cut off. You know, I'm not using my mouse pad, and I think that's what my problem is. Okay, so 25 1/8 minus 4 1/2. Well, we can't subtract these fractions until they have common denominators. But we're not going to touch the mixed numbers. We're only going to change the fractions. So we look at our highest denominator, and we start listing the multiples. 8 times 1 is the first multiple, 8. And we say, does 2 go into 8? Yes, it does. So we're going to be changing 1/2 to a certain number of eighths, and we don't have to change this one. So let's take our whole number and just move it over here, and then our fraction, take that over. We're not changing that, but we will be changing this fraction. First, let's move our 4 over. We don't have to worry about that. We can bring over our subtraction sign, try to keep it separate from all of this. And now we have to change 1/2 so that it has a denominator of 8. So that means the 2, in order to make that an 8, we multiply it by 4. and that means we multiply the numerator, oops, by 4. Okay, so 2 times 4 is 8. Remember that 4 is there because it just brought it over. 1 times 4 is 4. So that 1/2 turns into 4/8. And remember, we're subtracting. Oh, we got a problem. 1/8 does not subtract from 4/8. You cannot take 4 away from 1. We have to borrow. So I went over this in the borrowing fractions videos. But we're taking one whole piece out of the 25. That makes it 24. Then we're going to cut off the piece. That's the whole we took out. And we're going to cut it into 8 pieces because we want to make a fraction with 8 as the denominator. So now we're going to take that one whole. That whole is going to equal 8/8 because we cut it into 8 pieces, but it's still a whole. All the pieces are there. And we're going to add 1/8 and 8/8 because we took the whole piece out, and we're going to add the whole piece to the fraction. But you can't add it to the fraction without changing the whole piece to a fraction itself. All right. So what that means is we take the whole piece out, make it the fraction 8/8, and we add 1/8. I have a shortcut, and I will show you that too. That will equal 8 plus 1 is 9. We'll have 24 and 9/8 as a new fraction to subtract from 4 and 4/8. We didn't have to change 4 and 4/8. And this is just a little bit of math that was in between how we got the 9/8. If you notice, 9/8 is an improper fraction, and it should be, because you should be able to pull one whole piece out of it. Alright, so we'll do the math, and now we're running out of room. Oh, there's some. 9/8 minus 4/8 is 5/8, and that's our fraction. 24 minus 4 is 20. So our answer then for number 36 is 20 and 5/8. What I meant by a shortcut with the borrowing, quick, you want to borrow one whole piece from 25 and 1/8 and add that whole piece to 1/8. The fast way to do it is take this down by 1, add 8 plus 1, and that gives you 9/8, and that's your borrowed fraction.